What's up? This is the last dividend income report video for 2024, where I go over what stocks have been paying me dividends in December, my best and worst performers, and what stocks I've bought and sold. So I'm going to get right into it with the portfolio's performance in December. So December was obviously a bad month for the stock market as a whole. The S&P was down about 2.3%. Dow Jones down over 5%, and NASDAQ did have a little bit of green. But ultimately, my portfolio performed worse than everything at a negative 5.8%. So honestly, not great at all. No way to sugarcoat it. And that's something I'm going to try to work on in 2025, but I'll talk about that later. So let's look at the best and worst performing stocks. Very red month overall, as you can see. And we only had 3 positive stocks. Verizon had about a positive 0.32% return. Amazon did about positive 3.76%, and Main Street had about 5.78% return. So nothing too crazy there. Obviously, a lot of red on the screen. And the 3 worst performers were Starbucks at a negative 9.5% roughly. This is mostly just a pullback from the last couple months that have been really good for Starbucks. So nothing I'm really worried about in terms of that company. I think it was more of just being pulled by the stock market going down as a whole. And it was just exaggerated because they've been doing so well recently. It was kind of like people taking profit. Chevron was also down about 10%. And this is because of market volatility, uncertainty around oil prices going into 2025. Mainly that's really hard to say a specific reason, but just the market sentiment in general caused Chevron to have a pretty bad month. And Texas Roadhouse was my worst performer at a negative 10.61% return. And this is also profit-taking and market sentiment. So Texas Roadhouse has obviously done really good in the past year. It's over doubled since I bought it, or probably around doubled now. And people are just taking profits. And for its outlook in 2025, investors are predicting it'll do worse. So that hurt the stock price. And basically, just profit-taking market sentiment. So those were my best and worst performers. Overall, negative 5.68% for the month. So obviously not a good month performance-wise in the portfolio, but hopefully the dividends can make up for it. December was the biggest dividend month I've had so far. So let's go over the dividend payments I've gotten this month. The first one was from Visa, where I got about 90 cents. Then my next dividends were on the 10th of December, where I got 3 dividend payments. I got about $6.52 from Chevron, just under $5 from Johnson & Johnson, and $1.22 from Texas Roadhouse, bringing the dividends for that day to over $12. And then I got 66 cents from Microsoft 2 days later. Nothing crazy. But on the 13th, I got my monthly dividend payers from Realty Income and Main Street Capital, and their combined dividends were about $6, just under. And then my next dividend payment was on the 16th from SCHD, where I got my biggest dividend payment of $15.12. And to end off the month, I got about another $2.14 from Main Street Capital as a special dividend. And in total, the month was about $37.10 in dividends. Comparing my dividends from last December, where I got $23.19, had about a 60% dividend increase from last year. That is a cool statistic to see. So where does that leave the dividend stats for the portfolio? Well, December, obviously $37.10. My new monthly average in the portfolio is $21.90 for the next 12 months if I were to not add any more money. And the 12-month total, if I were to not add any money to the account, would be about $263.60. So that's what I would get for my portfolio as of now. Dividends have kind of been an afterthought the last couple of months because, as you can see, if you've been keeping track, my projected dividends haven't been going up nearly as much as they normally do, and that's because I've been buying a lot of non-dividend stocks, and that's something I've been incorporating into the portfolio recently, buying stocks or not limiting myself to stocks with dividends, because at the end of the day, it's important to focus on growth too, and that is something I'm going to be incorporating into my investment strategy for 2025. Before I get into that, the stocks I bought in December were once again Regeneron, where I put $200 into that. Not going to talk about that again because I've blabbed about that and yapped about that so much. Nothing's really changed in my mind about that besides the stock price is still low 700s. And while it's under 750, I'm going to keep dollar cost averaging into it. Not going to make a big spiel about it every month. But if it's under 750, I'm going to keep chipping a little money into it. But definitely not as heavy as I've been doing. This is the last $200 month for the foreseeable future. And then I also put $50 into Amazon just because that's another growth stock I wanted to increase my position in. But back to what I was saying. What's my plan for January? Well, I'm going to make a whole video about 2024 like I did for 2023, just a total recap of the year, what my dividends were, what my best and worst performing stocks were for the year, what were my returns on the stocks I sold, how I compared to the S&P 500 over 2024. So just a whole total year recap. So that'll be good. And I'll talk more about my plan as well. But it's basically going to be incorporating more growth into my investments because when 2024 started, I was strictly dividend focused with a little bit of growth. But now I want to incorporate more growth even in the dividend portfolio. So that's in short what it's going to be. But I'll talk a little bit more detail of that in the recap video. I would say the first 3 months of 2025 is when I'm going to kind of figure out that in more detail and talk about that and talk about more specifics to how I'm going to implement more growth into my investment strategy. So that's all I have for today. I'll post that 2024 recap video within the next couple days, so keep an eye out for that. Thank you for watching. Peace.